Hey everyone, I'm Ryan, and in case you haven't heard, Mass Effect is coming back, and look, to say I'm hype is a bit of an understatement. I am excited. I just don't show my excitement very much. But I assure you, inside this calm and at peace mind is a young boy looking to relive one of his favorite series of all time. And also, I'm pretty sure I have some deep emotional trauma. So there's that. Ha ha ha. Look, some of this information you're going to know already. The best YouTube minds out there have already created the best videos you have ever seen about Mass Effect. So, what I thought I would do is I would dilute the pool further by introducing my own Mass Effect video again. Before I begin, if you end up liking the video, consider subscribing to the channel and even hitting the bell if you want to be notified whenever one of my videos drops. If you don't do that, well, I can't make you do anything, so I'm not going to do anything about it, really. Alright folks. It's time.
Hold your applause for another edition of Everything We Know, featuring Mass Effect Legendary Edition with your host, Ryan!
Yeah, I don't know why you guys are subscribed to this channel. Okay, so I wanted to do another one of these Everything We Know About X videos. Figure we have about a month until launch, so it's a good time to just compile all this information into one spot because there's not much time left, and I don't really foresee us getting any more significant information prior to launch. Of course, I could be wrong. I've been wrong before. Anyway, we got a big information dump from BioWare just the other day, so we have a lot to sift through. Not gonna go everything verbatim, so every tiny detail will not be discussed, but I will be discussing a lot of it. Maybe I'll get a bit controversial too. I'm not gonna get controversial. I definitely won't be reading all the details, so I will link it down below and I will summarize parts of the information. IGN has a short video diary documenting some of the changes and having spoken to some of the developers to get some insight. So if that interests you more than what I'm doing here, feel free to check that out instead. Again, I'm not breaking news here or covering breaking news, just providing the information with a little bit of my own discussion. Worth noting that a lot of these major changes are going to be focused on Mass Effect 1, which is the roughest in the trilogy by any measure that you make, though I do urge you to skip ahead to the galactic readiness portion of the video as far as Mass Effect 3 goes, as that was probably my most burning question about everything. Believe it or not. The following is compiled from EA's website, specifically though from the Mass Effect Legendary Edition page, so let's begin. Combat tuning. Combat in the Mass Effect trilogy has evolved across the series, with each game's experience being different. We want to make the experience better across the board, but we didn't want to unnecessarily change what our fans have come to love about each game. That proved a unique challenge, as the first game is quite different from the second and third in terms of gameplay and combat. Mass Effect was heavily influenced by traditional RPG mechanics like the randomness of a dice roll and pen and paper stat building. As a result, weapons in Mass Effect often felt less accurate and reliable than the gunplay in Mass Effect 2 and 3. You can likely already see a bit of that in the screenshot, and some of the gameplay you're going to see in this video. Everything looks cleaner and newer, and they go on to even explain something like shooting an assault rifle but not having training in it or what have you relied on dice rolls and or math that the player obviously never sees, which is like basically you can shoot your gun and it'll be more accurate to where you are aiming and not shooting all over the place. I don't have to tell you about the shooting in Mass Effect 1, but let me just say it was kind of ass at times. So in the original, you would have to get trained with a specific weapon in order to zoom in with it, and other weapons that you weren't trained in, you're shit out of luck. My friend would always pick the soldier class in the first game with that in mind, so he didn't have any deficiencies as far as the weapons go. In the first Mass Effect, accuracy, including the reticule bloom and weapon sway, has been tuned across all weapons to allow players to maintain more consistent firepower while still managing their shots and overheat meter. We've also improved the aiming down the sights, or ADS, camera view to be tighter on combat so that ADS is more accurate, like the second and third games. We've improved the aim assist to provide better precision. These small behind the scenes changes collectively make combat much snappier, putting more control into the player's hands. I'll be honest, I don't personally find Mass Effect 1 to have aged as bad as everyone makes it seem, though I do agree that there are some aspects of it, like the aiming and the gameplay, that can be a little loose. Like, I played Mass Effect 1 a few months ago, and I will tell you, just replaying that game a little bit and playing the combat, you almost feel like if you played it just a little too long, you would just like break the whole experience and you'd fall through the planet, and yeah. They go on to talk about revamping and reworking abilities, like for example the immunity ability, where it used to give you a small buff for an indefinite amount of time, and now it's going to give you a stronger buff, but it's only going to last for a while. That was only one example, but that's the only one that they cited, so. A word I've been using a lot to describe the various games and mechanics is kinetic. Later entries in the Mass Effect series definitely had this, I guess you would say, kinetic feel to the combat. It was fast, but easy to control the powers and kind of curve them around cover and hit enemies. I don't expect that level of changes per se, but I do expect there to hopefully be more reliability in the powers. Like in Mass Effect 1, if you used throw in the original, it would just kind of hit wherever you aimed and it wouldn't be able to like hone in on an enemy. I expect that to be tweaked a bit if it's not entirely revamped. A few of these next few things we went over already, so I won't repeat them, but two little things I wanted to take note of. Shepard can now sprint out of combat. Melee attacks are now mapped to a button press rather than automatically occurring based on proximity to an enemy. Overall, these are both very good quality of life changes. First off, on Shepard sprinting, it's kind of become a meme with one of my friends and I, how insanely fast Shepard would sprint in the first game. Like, we talk about it to this day, like anytime we see a character in any game just like running, we're just like, hey, he's Shepard sprinting. I just hope they didn't mess with the speed, because I do love me a Shepard sprint, but I guess it's good that he can do it out of combat now. And look, something missing that the other games added was very simple. Just having a dedicated melee button makes sense. It made combat kind of awkward because the only way you can melee is if you got too close for comfort. Maybe there was like a defense mechanism, like, hey, get out of my face. We'd all love to have that energy of punching someone who got way too close for comfort. More combat changes include all relevant enemies now take headshot damage in the first game. Previously, some did not, including humanoid enemies. Ammo mods, anti-organic, anti-synthetic, etc. can now drop throughout the whole game. Previously, these stopped dropping at higher player levels. They are now also available to purchase from merchants. All weapons can be used by any class without penalty. Specializations, the ability to train/upgrade certain weapons, are still class specific. Headshot damage goes without saying. You shoot someone in the head and will either kill them or severely damage them, unless your skull is made of vibranium. Bit of a subtle MCU reference there for you. And of course, Black Panther as well. Wakanda forever. So like in the original, you can use any weapon you want, but the problem with it was that if you weren't training the weapon, it would make using it kind of a pain. So now what they've done is that they've removed that penalty. So say you switch to like a shotgun because some guy is stuck in your face or your junk, mostly your face though. It would mean that playing the original game, you would not even worry about all the weapons that you got or switch out your sniper rifle because your sniper rifle was atrocious. So, or at least your ability with it. Inventory management improvements. Items can now be flagged as junk. All junk items can be converted into Omnigel or sold to merchants at once. Inventory and stores now have a sorting functionality. Some abilities have been rebalanced. Weapon powers, example, those that are unlocked on each weapon's type skill trees, have been improved. Effectiveness/strength is increased, duration reduced in some cases. Heat now resets on power activation. This isn't exclusive to Mass Effect, but a lot of old games, or should I say older games, and specifically the RPG genre, have inventory problems where it's kind of a problem to put everything in one pot and it's hard to sift through. Again, I am playing Final Fantasy X right now, and it's a great game. I am really enjoying it, but the inventory management is just atrocious. Mass Effect 1 definitely struggled with a lot of that, constantly forcing you to break stuff down and sell things you weren't using, going back and forth to compare equipment. You do see a bit of this in the IGN video, the inventory management in 1 and how it's kind of been streamlined. It does look noticeably better aesthetically. In practice, it remains to be seen. We talked a bit before about the powers and how they're rebalancing them. Those are likely going to be smaller fixes as opposed to largely mechanic-driven updates. What I mean by that is if you look at any of the gameplay that they've shown for the new Mass Effect or Mass Effect Remastered, it's very close to the original style of game. It doesn't look too drastically different, but it does look better in terms of quality of life fixes, lighting, the tightness of the combat, it seems. In the interest of time and not wanting to regurgitate everything they listed, I'm going to have screenshots transition over the video here of the various other updates, and I'll very quickly just go through them. They talk about squad mates being able to be commanded individually like in Mass Effect 2 and Mass Effect 3, and of course boss fights being tweaked to make them a bit fairer and balanced. Improved cover system throughout the whole trilogy. If you recall in 1, they didn't even have a button for it. You just kind of had to go next to a surface and hope you magnetize to it. XP is rebalanced in the first game, so you don't have to do 2 playthroughs per se to reach higher levels for anyone who wants to get to higher levels, and rebalanced ammo for Mass Effect 2. Basically, more ammo drops to put it simply. Basically, that's all of the major gameplay and combat tweaks we have been privy to. So we spent a lot of time on combat. Now let's move on to the Mako, the other major noticeable Mass Effect 1 overhaul. These are the major calibrations you can expect to experience while driving the new Mako. The new part I added, of course. Improved handling, physics tuning, improved to feel weightier, slide around less, improved camera controls, resolved issues preventing the Mako from accurately aiming at lower angles, where its shields recharge faster. I realize that there's a small contingent on the internet, I don't know how large or small, that really wants the Mako to remain as is with no real changes to it, and I have to be honest and just ask, why? I get the nostalgia part, but that thing was floatier than, well, afloat. The gun was definitely an issue just based on how it was aiming. You have to have the angle the Mako in a way to shoot downwards at an enemy, recharging shields, and improve handling. I think I could live with this version of the Mako. The quicker recharge on the shields, at least for me, is going to be a popular change. Popular change. I want to point out, going back to the video IGN posted, that they still haven't finalized the Mako, like the weight of it and how weighty it is. Now, to be fair, I don't know when they recorded the video. It could have been a few weeks ago, maybe a few months ago, I don't know. Either way, as much as I love launching and bouncing the Mako off cliffs, and that's not sarcasm, I really do have hysterical memories about that, I'm generally very glad to see these changes. Couple of other quick things I want to run through. New thrusters added for a speed boost. Its cooldown is separate from the jump jets. The XP penalty while in the Mako has been removed. Touching lava no longer results in an instant mission failure and instead deals damage over time. I'm just gonna say that instant game failure is gonna be a game changer. By that, I mean not like world shattering for anyone except me. I have been pretty open that I love Mass Effect even with all its flaws, but this is something that made for many frustrated screams of a young boy just discovering himself. That came out weird, didn't it? I like that there's an ability now to move it faster, because looking back on these planets, you drop in, you want to investigate various anomalies, and it would be quite a trek, and even the big story-driven areas rely on the Mako pretty much all the time in every level. So making it more reliable and quicker will make it better to play around with. Next up, we have the character creator, which has been modified and made more consistent across all 3 games. You can now use the same character code and have your Shepard be more consistent between games, or even take someone else's code from online or a design you like and use that code. You see the image now, and I am a big fan of the face codes and whatnot, because while they are kind of long, it does recall back to the 360 days, or my 360 days. I would basically, when I would do replays, I would load up Mass Effect 3, create my character, and then just take the code and bring it to 2. It just made it much easier to have a consistent Shepard that looked similar, if not you wanted to make him, her or them look older. You'll of course have more skin, hair, and other options for your character, and naturally the textures will be updated, so it's going to look better overall. And look, of course, those of you who have the symptom of "this is great, I want to play the next one" syndrome, and don't want to load up all 3 games every single time you want to replay, the Genesis comment is there so you can make the major choices and just jump straight into Mass Effect 2 or 3. And now let's run through some of these last few changes and updates quickly, and then we'll get to the part I have been dying to talk about. Okay, rapid fire. New unified launcher for all 3 games includes trilogy-wide settings for subtitles and languages. Saves are still unique to each game and can be managed independently of each other. Updated character creator options, as mentioned above. FemShep for Mass Effect 3 is now the new default female option in all 3 games. The original FemShep design is also available as a preset option. Achievements across the trilogy have been updated. New achievements have been added to the trilogy. Progress for some achievements now carries over all 3 games. Example, kill 250 enemies across all games. Achievements that were streamlined into one have been made redundant or removed. A number of achievements have had their objectives/descriptions and or names updated. Some news for your trophy and achievement hunting friends out there. Integrated weapons and armor DLC packs. Weapons and armor DLC packs are now integrated more naturally into the game. They're obtainable via research or by purchasing them from merchants as you progress through the game, rather than being immediately unlocked from the start. This ensures overall balance and progression across Mass Effect 2, Mass Effect 3, Recon Hood, Mass Effect 2, and Cerberus Ajax Armor, Mass Effect 3 are available at the start of each game. Additional gameplay and quality of life improvements, audio is remixed and enhanced across all games. Hundreds of legacy bugs from original games are fixed. Native controller and 21.9 display port on PC with DirectX 11 compatibility. All seemingly good stuff, and some of it we have talked about before, and of course, as has been reported before, all the games will have 4K support, and to my knowledge, support higher frame rates for PS5 and Xbox Series X and S, and of course, loading times, like being able to skip elevator rides if you want to skip them, or if you want to ride them, you can. One more thing that has been bugging me since they announced the exclusion of the Mass Effect 3 multiplayer, which it was fun, and I would have definitely played it, it, but to me it's no love lost. But the question I had was, how would Mass Effect 3 handle the galactic readiness without the multiplayer? Well, we got our answer, and I do think it's a good one. This next part is going to be a bit of reading, so if that is going to bore you, feel free to jump ahead. Word of caution, there's nothing specific in here, but if you're going to be new to Mass Effect, I think you should be fine. This next part does give away some kind of themes and mechanics in the final game, so in case you don't want to know, go now. Galaxy at War Rebalancing. As Commander Shepard, you're tasked with the hardest mission of all: defeat the Reapers and save the galaxy from annihilation. This comes to a head in Mass Effect 3 when the galaxy unites, but your choices from across the trilogy lead you there and determine who fights at your side. The Galaxy at War feature puts you in the heart of the Reaper War from the Normandy's Combat Information Center, which has been rebalanced in the Legendary Edition. For example, galactic readiness is no longer impacted by external factors that aren't part of the collection, like multiplayer or the old companion app for Mass Effect 3. However, that doesn't necessarily mean defeating the Reapers will be easy. The more content you complete across the entire trilogy, the more likely you'll be to be prepared for the final fights in its conclusion. If you only play Mass Effect 3, you'll have to do just about every option available in the game to be eligible for an ending that doesn't result in massive galactic losses. Playing the first two games and carrying over your progress is the most reliable way to get good results in the final hours of the Reaper War. For comparison, if you've previously played Mass Effect 3 with the extended cut, which is included in the galactic readiness rebalancing, fully preparing for the final fight will be more difficult to achieve in the Legendary Edition. And on that note, the extended cut ending is now the game's default finale. However, readying your intergalactic armies will be made a bit easier by a number of critical bug fixes and backend improvements made to the Paragon Renegade system in Mass Effect 2. We resolved some legacy issues that inhibited accurate reputation stats from being displayed and outright prevented certain dialogue options from being selectable when they should have been. Because of this, key moments that have been notoriously difficult to achieve in Mass Effect 2 and impacted Mass Effect 3 can now be completed more reliably, leading to better results in the story's final act. There was a bit of hope on behalf of fans that they would somehow rework the ending to Mass Effect 3, and I'm sorry to report that doesn't appear to be reality. I personally never thought they were going to, so I wasn't excited at all for that, but from what I remember, the default Mass Effect 3 ending was pretty bad, and I will say I do think the extended cut was fine. It didn't make the ending magically better or great, but it was fine. I'm kind of over it either way, to be honest, at this point. As I said before, my most burning question was how would they handle the game's final act when it came to preparing for the endgame? Well, we got our answer. I think it's fairly straightforward, but for anyone who is confused, it's kind of like if you play Mass Effect 1 and Mass Effect 2, those decisions or the amount of work you put in over those games will probably factor into the conclusion of Mass Effect 3. If you don't play either of them and only play Mass Effect 3, the best result is still possible, but it's harder to reach that with just the one game's worth of content. Now, to be clear, I don't believe this to be any different than when they updated the game years ago or Mass Effect 3 years ago to rebalance the galactic readiness, because Mass Effect 3 already does factor in certain relationships and assets you build over the course of the 3 games. To me, I think that's more that there's going to be more importance placed on that work you put in over the prior 2 titles. Okay folks, that is more or less everything we know about Mass Effect Legendary Edition. Clearly the biggest changes and major overhauls are going to be for the first Mass Effect game. The idea was to keep Mass Effect close to what it once was, while still fixing it and tweaking it around the edges to make it more in line with Mass Effect 2 and 3. The sequels definitely held up better gameplay wise from what I have seen and even played recently, so they really were focused on giving those games a facelift while fixing legacy bugs. So there you have it, your detailed breakdown of all the Mass Effect Legendary Edition updates. If you got this far, I do thank you. I throw the discussion to you now. Did I miss anything? What do you think about the changes coming to the remasters? Are you going to get it? Also, while you're at it, if you enjoyed what you saw, maybe consider a subscription to my channel. Or, if you didn't like the video, go subscribe to someone else you do like. I'm sure they would appreciate it. Of course, remember to give the video a thumbs up if you did like it and a thumbs down if you didn't. I hope you stay healthy and happy and hope to see you back here soon. Thanks for watching and I love you. Maybe.
We're low on thermal clips, but I'm a biotic.